Hello, we're on day 13 of the barn owl sculpture, and these are just 15-minute to 20-minute sessions, well, sometimes a little longer for each of these days. So I haven't spent a whole day, but I did get a few things done to show you. Filling in, let's see if I can adjust the light or move my work to show you how I've detailed out all the areas in the feathers on the one side. So you can see that, and then I'll turn it to this side, and you can see those are just the general areas that have not been detailed yet. So there's a back view, but obviously I still have to incise out all of those feathers that we're seeing this way. And I just provide the general areas. So what is needed is to start to look at the photographs. And yes, you're going to continue to measure. You know, you measure, for example, all of these feather pieces here to get all of that right. And put some X marks on your plan. If you can see, I put little X marks, and I continue to measure from here to here or from here to here, and then move over to my sculpture and keep measuring. And that's how I achieve this. It would be very hard to do this complex a pattern if I didn't constantly measure my work. So I've gotten this basic pattern in place, and you can see that. And what I'm going to do now is begin to work on the other side. So I'll just start, and I'm going to look at my back view. These project guides are at learnsculpture.org, and we will be adding to each booklet. So we have the preview guide available for sale and download. And then when we're all finished, I'll be adding the views that are very hard to determine right now: the top, the front, and the back. A barn owl, it's just such a really cool bird. I mean, who's not to love this face, right? So I have a ways to go. That is a really cute owl. And I have a ways to go, but I'm on the right track. I've checked everything with my calipers, measuring from my design over. And so now I'm really getting into it. So I'm not going to refine this detail. It's just a map right now. I'm mapping out where everything goes. And similarly, I'm going to do the same map on this side. And then I'll work my way to the front, to the back, to the feathers that go around the head. Right now I just have little indicators, nothing concrete. And then I'll add them to this project guide. And anybody who thinks it's impossible to do something like this, if you're not talented as a sculptor and born with it, you would be shocked if you follow a guide and just continue to measure. I mean, maybe that sounds a little boring. Maybe you think you should be able to go like that. Every good sculptor measures, Michelangelo included. So I'm going to start to do this mapping out. And so I have my back view. You can see the front while I'm working on the back. And I'm just going to take this little stylus to give my, I can do it lightly. I don't have to do it in a forced kind of way. And I have a lot of options to change as I want to. So if I don't like where something is or it's not right and I measure it, I can, this is oil-based clay. I can come back and simply, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll flip it around here in just a moment. I don't think that's the right spot. Yeah, it is. I've got two spots marked here. So I have a hole on this side and I have an X right there. So I'm going to turn this around and show you. Here's my hole. I put it approximately where the X is. Oh, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. It's coming along. So if I have my mark there and I want to just make sure, for example, that it's the right proportion, the right shape, I can simply, oops, touch my marks together and boom, I'm right there. It's hard to see still, but I put a mark from here, oops, to here, and that is the same as what I'm measuring here to here. So I will start, and I'll count these. I put only the bottom row of feathers because I have to build up from that. So I'll start to count. And I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these little covert feathers is what they call them. These are coverts. This is another layer of coverts. And so I need to just carefully map it out and have patience to do this because it will pay off. You'll be surprised at how it pays off. And if something doesn't look right, you just go back and you check it until it does, because this is going to work. I can guarantee you. So one, I'm just making tick marks now to where these feathers are going to go. And I'll turn this around and show you in a minute what I've done. 3, 1, 2, 3. And then it gets a little smaller. 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're not stuck with things. If you think, gosh, that doesn't look right, you can go back and measure, figure out what you did wrong. This will always tell you what you did wrong. The calipers, and I'm going to order some to show you the inexpensive. This is a big version. This is a proportional caliper. And it's for pretty much bigger work. But what you can do with this is you can change where that center hole goes, and you can enlarge or reduce. Like, for example, if you have a model, say I want to make a perfect sculpture of my coffee cup. If I have a block of clay over here, I can just go back and forth and make a giant coffee cup by changing the place where this goes. Measure this coffee cup here, go over to my clay, measure the clay, and then carve away the part that I need to. Oh, thank you. This is from Sharizu. Thank you. She says it looks good. Yes. Now, sculpturedepot.net, and I have no affiliation with them, but they're a great place to buy things online. They have sets of these calipers. I'll show you again closely. So they have sets of these, but smaller. So I already had this. I've had this for years. This is just a little, almost like a thing you might want to make like a compass type of thing. And you can get several sizes that are more like this size in those calipers. So I might get those too, just to be able to demonstrate it better. But anyway, so we've got 1. I'm going to continue to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I get smaller now, 6. I'll show you what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm on the 6th. It's hard to do it this way, but you can see what I'm doing. And just making a mark right there. Now go to the next one. 7, 8, 9, 10. They're all about the same size. So 7, 8, and there I have it. 9, 10. And I've got one where I already had a mark, but that's wrong. So it's hard to see. Let me see if I can show you closely what I've done. You might be able to see I've made all those little marks right along here with this to match my diagram. And that's how you get a bearing, because otherwise how in the heck can you see what you're what you're going to get if you don't measure it up. All right. So now I know that these feathers overlap a certain way. And the reason I know that is because everything has a reason here, which is not left to just go, oh, I'm so talented. No. It's pretty methodical. All right, so I'm going to show you this, if I can show you where. These feathers are going to overlap a certain way. And I'm going to, like right in the first picture, you can kind of see it. So I'm going to follow the pictures. I took a lot of pictures from the internet and I created these little cards. I mean, I've got a big format printer, but you don't need that. You can just have a regular size printer, print out, or even look at your pictures while, you have your a way to look online. You can look, let me see if I can show you. You can see the direction these feathers might overlap. And so on this side, it's like a roof shingle effect. You've got the feathers overlapping, you just don't want feathers just like a circular thing. You want to have them so each one, let me look at my guide here, is overlapping a certain way. So you just start to whoops, I have to hold on to it while I'm doing it. You just start to carve in the way they're going to overlap. And we have a textures video on our YouTube channel to show you what I mean by the overlapping properly. So it's like a roof tile, and it's going to overlap one to the next. I can show you this. I don't know if I can do it. If this backwards, I'll have to correct it, but see how I take my tick marks and my tool and I make them overlapping this way. So I'll come back and carefully do this, but I just want to give you an idea if you can see that. It's a little hard to see. I wish I had a cameraman. I could have some close-ups as I'm working, but I'm just using my computer to show you. So I'll go through and I'll overlap. So it's like that roof tile. All the shingles are over top of the next one and over top of the next one, like that. That's what I'm basically doing. And that's what I've done here. Now this is very rough right now, but it's in the place it belongs. I've checked and checked and checked. So this is oil-based clay, Mark. This is a clay by a company called Foundry, and it doesn't dry out. It's not like water-based clay. It doesn't dry out. It's not like polymer clay either, which you bake. And this is a professional sculpting clay, and it was originally developed. It's natural clay in an oil base. It's non-toxic, non-sulfur, and this clay company originally they served car companies like Ford and GM, and all of the cars before there was the computer-aided design were done by making a life-size clay model that they would then tool their parts on. So this is a company called Foundry, and it's on you'll see it on our website and where to get it. CHAVANT. SculptureDepot.net also carries it. And the one I'm using is called Clayette, and it's a very hard version. So what I do, and you can't really see it from here, but I have a plate warmer over here, and I get the clay soft. It's very, very soft on my plate warmer. But once I get it over here, it's like hard as could be. But that gives me a chance to get really sharp detail. So I can get, in the end, this will all look very refined. Right now it's kind of rough. Like I said, it's where it should be, but it's rough. And same with the head feathers. An owl like this has such soft feathers. Let me see if I can show you another picture. And you don't want to over carve your feathers. Here's some pictures of the owl. Sometimes it's the color, and the feathers just sort of merge right into one another. So you don't want to detail every single feather. A lot of it's got to be very smooth to be realistic. And that's my goal, is try to create the illusion of it. You know, when it's all done, you go, oh my gosh, there's an owl in my house. So that's kind of where I'm headed. And probably, although it could be cast in bronze, professional clay like this is used to make the model to be cast in bronze. You can also cast it in plaster, which is a form of gypsum. And you can create multiple casts if you get a mold made. And we're going to show everybody that when I'm ready to do that on this. And then much less expensive is creating it in plaster. And you could do several, so you have a limited edition of a few. And then you can do what's called polychrome finish, which means you seal the plaster. You can call it gypsum, and then you can color it to look like bronze, or you can paint it. You can do all kinds of finishings to make it look really great. And so anyway, when I first started sculpture many years ago, we were sculpting for the porcelain fine giftware industry, and everything had to be made. So if there was something that went under like that, it had to be separated out. Clay had to be all cut up, and a mold that could pull off without getting stuck had to be made on each part. And that meant that sometimes you had hundreds of parts to make one sculpture, and then you had to reassemble it, and then it got fired, and then it shrunk 16% once it fired. So there were so many technical requirements, but all along the oil-based clay has been used for projects like that. Bronze, it just doesn't dry out. And so I can come down here, if say I don't want to work on it for a month, I don't need to cover it. I can just come down and start working on it. So that's a huge benefit. So anyway, I'll start working on this other side, and I'll match that. Then I'll start working on how to create the illusion of those fine head feathers. Go back and finish the face. Go back and finish the feet. I just have it very roughed out where it is right now, but I did use my design that I initially drew to get placement. And I drew these designs by looking at all these different pictures of owls. I have 4 cards I've created of owl pictures. So I have good reference material. There's nothing like having a real owl sitting here. I mean, you can't beat having a live model. And then you can take your pictures and then go back and look at your live model. But I don't happen to have my own pet barn owl, although some people do. But anyway, I'll if there's any more questions, please put them in the comments. I'll let this go live online so you can watch it later, and hopefully I'll have the other side done by tomorrow. And I have another question. The mold can be actually for, well, I shouldn't say for both. If it's Sharizu asks, am I going to make a mold for bronze or plaster? If I go ahead and make a mold for plaster, I know I can get these produced on my own. If I'm going to do a mold for bronze, I probably, let me turn off my alarm. I probably need to go over to the Foundry, which we have a Foundry nearby here, and have them make the mold, and then they'll do a wax, and then they'll make a second mold on the wax. What they'll do is they'll make a mold on this, make take this out, take all the clay out. The clay can be reused, which is great. Then they'll pour wax into that mold. Then they'll take that wax out and put it all together, put another mold on that. Now that mold can withstand incredible heat. So they'll put that mold in the heat. The wax will drain out. And now they'll pour bronze into that mold. It's like a negative shape of this. Then that's how they make the final bronze. And then it needs to be chased. There's a lot of work involved. It's very expensive. If you guys can learn how to work in oil-based clay, make a rubber mold on this, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the future, and then cast it in plaster, gypsum. You can call it hydrocal, you can call it all kinds of things. But basically, it's a plaster material that's very hard, more rigid than, for example, the plaster you do for a wall. This is hydrocal, for example, very hard plaster, or hydrostone. That's another one. So you cast that. Now you just need to clean it up. You can make several casts, and you can color it yourself, and it's something that's affordable. So, wow, now you can make your own gallery worth of sculptures without going to extreme expense. I mean, there's a little expense in the rubber mold material, and that's never that cheap, but you just put a shell on of the rubber mold and then a shell of plaster, take it apart, and then you're going to put all that back together with this taken out, and then pour your plaster into that, take that off. Anyway, it's a process, but I'll demonstrate it as we go along. And I'll see you on Wednesday morning. Hopefully I'll get that all done, and then start to do the feet, finish the face and the head, start to do the base, which I want to show you how to do cool wood textures on a wooden base or any kind of base. And then from this, we'll move on to the next sculpture. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for joining this morning. I forgot to drink my coffee. I might have to warm it up. So I'll see you on Wednesday morning, 7:30. Thank you very much. And don't forget to add questions in the comments later on if you have any. I'll be glad to answer them. Bye-bye.